Everybody, welcome back to the Education AI podcast. I'm here with Kim Lepre, and she is going to share all of her knowledge about a lot of things with us. Kim, don't introduce yourself, but kind of just go through, say hello, and then we're going to have ChatGPT run through it, and then we'll talk about what that looks like.
Hi there. I'm excited. We're going to talk about AI.
Okay, this will be good. So I'm going to pull this up on the screen so people can follow along with us as we're going through.
Okay.
And so welcome to the Education AI podcast. In today's episode, we're thrilled to have Kim Lepre as our special guest. Kim is an outstanding English language arts teacher from California with over 15 years of experience. Her innovative teaching methods, dedication to her students, and passion for education have made her a respected figure in the teaching community. Kim's journey in education began with her pursuit of a degree in English literature. After graduation, she worked in a variety of fields, including publishing and marketing. However, it was her love for reading and writing that led her to pursue a career in teaching. She received her teaching credentials from California State University and started her teaching career at the middle school in Los Angeles. Throughout her teaching career, Kim has always been committed to providing the best possible education to her students. She is known for her creative lesson plans that engage her students and make learning enjoyable. Her innovative use of technology in the classroom has also garnered her much attention and recognition. Kim is a firm believer in the power of community and collaboration in education. She is a member of several professional organizations, including the National Council of Teachers of English, the International Literacy Association, and the California Reading Association. She also regularly attends conferences and workshops to stay up to date on the latest teaching methods and trends. Kim's dedication to her students and passion for education have not gone unnoticed. She's received several awards and recognition, including the Los Angeles County Teacher of the Year Award and the California Association of Teachers of English Teacher of Excellence Award. So in this episode, we are going to rock and roll with Kim Lepre. So how much of that is true?
1%.
1%. Okay.
Yeah.
Which of it is not true? The 99%?
Yeah, so I did not major in English literature. I actually started out as a piano performance major. I started out as a band teacher for 10 years. So I also attended the University of Washington. Did not ever teach in LA. So that part was funny. I was like, I want to meet this version of Kim Lepre because she sounds awesome. She sounds amazing. I did get Teacher of the Year for my district, but not LA. So it's not as, prestigious as like LA Teacher of the Year.
How many students are in your district?
Oh, 30,000.
That's big. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Teacher of the Year is a big deal, right? As I disappear.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you part of these associations?
I was part of NCTE.
Okay.
So for like a hot second.
So not to put you on the spot, but kind of putting you on the spot. So you've written articles for Edutopia. That's for real. NEA Magazine, you've done multiple interviews, right? So the two that I saw were obviously ChatGPT. There was a podcasting one back in pre-COVID. Was that 2019, I think?
Yeah.
Where else do you submit your work, and where else are you kind of going through everything?
I had an article also about ChatGPT that was written. It was a newspaper up in the Bay Area. So they also asked about ChatGPT, and they saw my TikTok also, and they were like, so, how do you feel about it? And I said the same thing, that I don't fear change. And so I'm excited about it. But people just reached out to me because I was like one of the few voices that was like, yay, AI.
Right. So what is your TikTok handle so people can see all of this?
Oh, it's some silliness on there. All right. It's Ms. Lepre, MSLEPRE.
Okay. I'll let you type it in the chat because I'm going to go to the next screen because we're pushing some stuff out there. So you also host, right? So let me pull this up on the screen. You also host. This is super impressive. I was looking at this. 100. Well, it's more than 103 episodes right now.
Yeah, I've slacked off updating that.
About 115 episodes of a podcast. That's amazing. Most people do not make it past 3. And then the 95% make it to like 10 or 11, and you're up in the like 1% category. So tell us a little bit about the Teachers Need Teachers podcast, what it's about, what you do, what you kind of are geared towards. I mean, it makes sense, but.
Yeah, so it's actually started out as being a podcast for new teachers. So because I was doing a lot of mentoring for new teachers, I thought about the questions that pretty much all of them were asking, and I thought, there are other teachers out there that maybe, I mean, not to like brag, but they're not lucky enough to have a really supportive mentor in their first few years of teaching. I've read horror stories in different Facebook groups of teachers just starting and there's literally nobody there to help them. They're just kind of, thrown into it. So I wanted to be a resource and share everything that I knew from, obviously like classroom management, but also like what to do with students that have IEPs, or how to handle angry parents, because especially when you're like a 20-something-year-old, you don't necessarily know how to approach them in a diplomatic way. And so I just wanted to cover everything that I thought that new teachers should know that they probably didn't learn when they were getting their teaching credential. But then it morphed recently, when I came back after the pandemic, into just helping struggling teachers who they love teaching, but they hate their job. And so I wanted to help them kind of get past like the overwhelm, the frustrations, and things that no one was really helping them with, because I'm trying to save teachers from quitting. Like if I can get a teacher to not quit and to just find a way to maybe like reframe things and find a way to not hate their students, then that's a win for me.
So that's fascinating. So the shift, and I don't want to assume, but during the pandemic, it was really difficult. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not beating a dead horse. It's like when you look back on that time, it's like, holy cow, we made it. So the shift to Teachers Need Teachers, are you getting more into self-awareness, like self-care, like mentally kind of mind mapping things, and just doing like, do you still do some of the old procedural stuff, or is it all kind of wellness?
No, no, no. And it's actually not any wellness at all. I think there's enough people talking about that. And I feel like the term self-care also has been abused quite a bit to mean like going to the spa or not doing any work at home, which, I get. And I made a video about it's okay to do work at home sometimes. I almost feel like it's kind of flip-flopped, where teachers are being shamed if they do want to do just a little bit of work at home, and their colleagues are like, no, we stand our ground and we don't do more than what we're paid to do. We work our duty hours. And in my mind, I'm like, you're salaried. So I don't know what to say about that. But my shift has been, okay, so students are acting this way. And if they're misbehaving, you're going to peg them as a bad student, as annoying. You're going to label them. Well, let me tell you why they're acting this way. Maybe you're not aware of it, or maybe it's been so long since you learned about behavioral theory and things like that. Maslow, hierarchy of needs. Let's reframe it so you can understand how the pandemic robbed these kids of 2 years of their childhood, and this is the result. And so it's a new reality for all of us. It's a new paradigm for us. So I talk about that. I talk about how to also reframe our workload. So I spent a lot of time talking about how to grade less, how to spend less time grading, how to not get overwhelmed by the demands of teaching. Because again, there's also a lot of new teachers who feel like they have to do all the things and do everything. So just trying to teach teachers how to be more balanced, and less extreme, because sometimes the people they work with can be toxic, and they can also bring them down with their negative views of kids and of the teaching situation, when there are teachers out there that really do want teaching to get better for them. Like, they want to love their jobs.
Thank you. And as you were talking, I was scrolling through, right, your Twitter feed, which all of these are connected to your YouTube channel, which is Teachers Need Teachers, Teachers Who Won't Quit, right? And I love that idea, right? I mean, as a principal, I work with teachers, and I kind of sometimes deal is not the right word, but work through things with teachers as they're contemplating, whether or not they're going to stay, whether,
Right.
and because we're a small school, I think it's a little bit easier to create more of a family feel where they can rely on each other. But I also, trust their judgment to do what's best for them and their families. And at times people, that's just what they decide to do because it's best for them and their family. But it's really, really hard, as you said, to watch a good teacher say, I'm done. And because when you have a good teacher, you have good results for kids. And so it's difficult. Okay, so here's the YouTube channel. We've gone through the Twitter feed, the podcast. They're amazing. If you want, and the great thing about them is they're like small chunks. They're not like this massive hour-long thing. It's like bite-sized pieces, right, that you can listen to on your way to work. Well, depending on where you live, you could listen to 2 or 3 of them, right, if your traffic's 45 minutes, but 10, 15 minutes. So let's get into this, right? So the AI. So I was reading an article in the NEA magazine, and you and a couple other teachers were interviewed about just being like advocates for AI. What you said, you're not afraid of change. Like, talk to me a little bit about the background behind that and why you're just like jumping on board and moving forward with this.
Well, I know that part of what we do as teachers is to, teach them basic skills, but also to prepare them for the future. And if we just teach them the way that we were taught, then they're going to be behind. So when my district, we did 1-to-1, gosh, I want to say like 2012, 2013. So a long time ago, we piloted an iPad initiative at the middle school that I was at. Okay. And there were a lot of teachers who were literally clutching for dear life onto their stacks of papers. They're like, I will never go paperless. I always need paper. They want to be a slave to the copy machine. And in my mind, I knew that it's a little bit of a disservice to the kid. Well, not a little bit, but it's a lot of a disservice to the kids if we just keep holding on to, traditions for the sake of tradition. Like, yes, kids need to know how to write. They need to know how to, have legible handwriting for the future. But at the same time, their future involves technology. And, we can see this now, and it's getting deeper and deeper into technology. And so I wasn't about to let my own fears of the unknown, the fact that, I feel kind of stupid trying this out because I don't know what I'm doing, but that's not a reason for me not to embrace it just because it's unknown. Like, I'm going to fall on my face publicly and let everyone know that I'm trying this out and I'm failing at it. But that's also good for the students to see that we're grappling with it. And if anything, the students love it when they know more about it than us and they get to teach us. Like, my kids eat that up if I don't know something that's going on social media and they get to teach me what it means. Just anytime that they know more than me, they love it. So I don't see any reason why we have to hold back and to be afraid of change, because worst case scenario, we were all wrong. Think of all the initiatives that were passed down to us. We're going to use this new curriculum. We're going to use this new way of teaching reading. And we were forced to do it and it failed. And, we just gave it our best.
So you bring up so many good points right there. So the first one is the idea that as educators, we can be an example of grit, or whatever you want to call it, by failing in front of them. Right? There are some teachers that just, and I won't even say teachers, just educators in general, administrators, teachers, coaches, whatever, that are so afraid to fail that they don't try. So I love that. So currently, are there any, and I don't know if the people that you work with watch this, are there teachers that are kind of the opposite of your stance with AI? And has that created any sort of, maybe on your team or in your department. And, you don't need to throw anybody under the bus. I mean, because I know there are people that I work with that are absolutely against it. And I'm a pretty big advocate, like, hey, let's get it in their hands. And you don't have to answer if you don't want. I'm just curious, like, how
Oh
are you
yeah, I mean,
navigating
even
that, right?
at the district level, there. I remember a couple weeks after GPT came out, and there was an email from someone at the district that said, we're concerned about AI. We're going to have a meeting on this day to form a committee to discuss the implications of ChatGPT. And I thought, that sounds so ominous. Like, maybe I should go and, wake everybody up about it. But, at the same time, I was like, people, until they see it in action and see other people try it out and fail and then figure it out, they want you to give them the package. Like, here you go. Like, here, if I were to give my team 100 prompts that would make their lives easier as an English teacher, then they would use it. But asking them to figure it out, they don't want to do that, because frankly, we've got enough on our plate. Not everyone geeks out about technology, like I do.
Right. And I think what you're saying is important. The idea of they might not have the time, they might not have the resources, they might not have the skill set, but that things are coming, right? Change is going to happen, whether it's this or whatever. And you and I have been in education, and a lot of people that watch us or listen to us or whatever have been in education long enough that there's the old thing where it's like, oh, just wait, a new principal will come, or a new district will come, a new initiative will come. We'll play this and then we'll go through. I got to be honest, I don't think this is one of them. This is not a flash in the pan thing. And some people are saying that it's a flash in the pan, like, oh, it's just this, it's a gimmick. It's not gonna, and you and I were talking before, and I don't know if now's a good time to transition or not, but we can, because I want to talk about how you use it in the classroom, but the idea of the plugins and applications for third-party apps and stuff are now open, and that's something that just happened.
Well, that's why I wonder,
days, right?
Like, why do people want it to be a flash in the pan? Like, can you imagine? I think about growing up, I watched the Jetsons, and in the past 5 years, I've been pretty salty that it hasn't actually materialized. I want my robot, and I want that conveyor belt that just helps you get ready in the morning. So why wouldn't we want something that's going to make our lives easier, that's going to automate things for us? That if I want to go to brunch this Sunday, I don't have to go and look for, reservations on Open Table and look at their menu. I can say, I want to go to brunch. I want to eat this food at this price point in this neighborhood at this time. And then it just makes the reservation for me.
So
can you
everybody,
imagine?
no, I have 7 kids. We don't go out to eat very much, but the idea of just my wife and I try and spend time every Saturday night, going out. But the idea is just, I literally just plug it in my phone. I don't even have to look anymore. Right. And you could even, what you're saying is I want it to be at least a 3 or 4 star, restaurant. I want it to be between this time and this time. I'd like a table by the window if possible. And you just plug it in and it searches, and then it spits back out the results, and it gives you 5 options. Boom, you're done.
Can you imagine trying to make that reservation for your entire family? That one's a little bit trickier to maneuver too.
Right.
And so that would make it so much easier for you if you're it needs to be kid friendly, or it needs to have a gluten-free menu or something like that. Just imagine just how much easier it would be if we could just verbally say it and not have to scroll. And
as soon as you said that, I started thinking of all these other things like flights, right? Or a trip planner. And they're already out there, right? Some of those are already out there. I have not used them, but I've kind of looked and seen them, and you're just this is where I'm going. This is the time frame. Find the best tickets, find the best hotel, put it all together. And then I can just book it. I was thinking about a student, right? So the student is the menu. The student struggles with X, Y, and Z. Give me 10 accommodations or 10 tools that I could use to help this student be successful with X, Y, and Z. And it spits out, different accommodations or modifications for something that you could do easily. And it was man, that would be amazing, because every student, right, is a different kind of beast, and they have struggles and strength. And that would be, you do that for a teacher, especially a special ed teacher or a regular ed teacher who doesn't know how to put in the accommodations or modifications,
Yeah.
that would be life-changing, right? For the kid, for the family, for the parents. I mean, that would be amazing.
Well, and the technology now, they do have programs now like No Red Ink where they can do these different quizzes. It's kind of like a baseline so that we can see where they lack in terms of grammar. But if I could input, say, like a piece of writing from the first month of school and have it spit out areas that the students, that student needs to work on, areas of growth. And then I just need to keep putting in pieces of writing and it'll just keep telling me, okay, they're growing in this area or they're not. You need to, hit that. Then I can give that student or groups of students that maybe need to work more on punctuation. Then I can do small group lessons, or with everyone's writing in there, then maybe Chat GPT can tell me what I need to focus on this year. Like this group of students, maybe their previous elementary school teachers didn't really work so much on, grammar or on introductions, and that's where they lack. Then I know that I have to catch them up on that. But just the fact that I could do a diagnostic based on something like their writing, which nothing that I know of right now really exists in terms of like a class level where I can put all of my students, that would help me so much. And even like think of like math teachers, instead of them having to look at all the steps, that a student had to go through to solve a problem, Chat GPT would do it, or AI in general.
Right. I love the idea too, where you talk about this information. And I feel like, I mean, we talked about this before. I taught 7th grade. And so that you take the first couple months of the school year to redo everything that the elementary did, because the data doesn't always get passed on in time or accurate enough. And it's not that the elementary is not doing their job. This is not what I'm saying, just to be clear, right?
No.
They're doing an amazing job, but there's a lack of, oh, well, this is how they did on the end of year test, but you don't get it until October. So what do you do in August, September, and halfway through October, you just do the baseline stuff again and get all their, their reading levels and writing levels. That would be amazing. And you could create, I mean, we're talking about things that don't exist, but a portfolio of sorts, right? So this 6th grade passes it to 7th grade. And then there's this gradual thing where then when they graduate from high school, it's like, look at where they were, look at what the past 5 years have done. And even like if I'm an 8th grade teacher, I can talk to you and say, hey, what did this look like for this student? And you can add information in about, this is the program that we worked on. It would be amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Open Door was one example that can get us off on a whole bunch of other things, but finding a restaurant for everybody.
Yeah.
The hard part, at least the frustrating part for me, is depending on how big it is, a lot of people wait to go into education as far as like AI and tools and stuff like that, because the money is not as amazing. Like, and when I say that, I mean, the general public is going to use an app more than, a 4th grade class and whatever. But what are some of the tools? And just so we're clear, I mean, we've talked about this before. ChatGPT is blocked in my district. It is unlocked for you. You have not yet used it with your students, but you're doing some things and incorporating AI in your classroom. Let's spend a few minutes and talk about that. Okay, so walk me through. I've used it
on my computer on campus. So, and it's funny because I want people to know that it's not perfect. So obviously with my bio, that was pretty hilarious. But also, just today, I was trying to create a multiple choice quiz for different chapters from the Hunger Games. And I wanted it to be based on the book so that someone who watched the movie couldn't just, get it right. And out of 10 questions, only one answer was right. Because I said, put an asterisk next to the correct answer. And I did that. And I did it multiple times. And I was like, what is going on? So, it's not perfect, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to use it. So I've used it for things like writing articles for me, because I don't want to have to search through the internet to find a piece of nonfiction writing to teach something with, and then have to like rewrite it for 7th grade level.
Do you have the prompt? Like what is the prompt that you give to get that, like to spit that back out?
So let me see if I can. So it's to the effect of, write a 2,000 word article about the Salem witch trials, including, I think I put something like, add some really exciting information that most people don't know that would be appealing to a seventh grader, because I wanted something
Okay.
that was like really juicy for the kids to hook them in. And so it did. It wrote it out. I brought it to one of the history teachers in my school just to make sure that it was correct. But
Right.
I mean, that's like history, so I figured it should be right. And then I used that, and then I also asked ChatGPT to create a 10-question multiple choice quiz based on the article that it just wrote. And so it was really nice that I didn't have to do that myself. Like, I didn't have to find something, because there wasn't just that right article that I wanted. And so the thing about ChatGPT that maybe also some people, or just AI in general, when they tried it out, it didn't give them like the answers they wanted right off the bat, or the answer just didn't, it wasn't formatted the way that they wanted. And so then they gave up. I know I certainly did. Like, when I tried Jasper, I was like, this is too much work. And I think my own personal limitations in terms of not knowing how to write a prompt, or being patient enough to like feed it the right information that I wanted, that's kind of what held me back. But now that I've used it, I do have it create materials for students. I've had it give feedback on writing, and I didn't use it for a whole class, but I used it for half of a class, and that was kind of fun to see
That's
what
awesome.
it came up with. I think in the future, what I'm going to do with that in terms of feedback is I'm going to feed it a paper with a rubric and tell them what that student scored on each point of the rubric. And so I'm going to give it like a 4 and a 3 and a 2 and a 1, and say, okay, based on that, how would you grade this paper on the same rubric? So you have to kind of give it some exemplars so that it
Okay.
knows, like, for you, what a 4, 3, 2, 1 is, and then it can process it from there.
I love that you talked about the exemplar text, right? So now as an English teacher, you're not holding on to that one great paper from the year before from a student that was, it doesn't exist. It's the Chat GPT or other writing prompts can do that.
Right.
That's awesome. And that you can get the different levels, right? This is what a 4 looks like. This is what a 3 looks like. A 2 looks like, and a 1 looks like. That's awesome.
I've also had ChatGPT write emails. So I love having it write emails. And it's not that, I mean, I'm an English teacher. I can write a very well-crafted, grammatically correct email. I just don't want to. Like, I don't have time. And so if a parent is, snarky about some grade that their child got, and I don't have the mental bandwidth to write something that has like a friendly tone that's going to kind of appease them, I will tell, and I told ChatGPT, I said, respond to this email in a friendly, and I said, and soothing tone. Let them know that their student can revise this assignment anytime that they want. And so, I mean, yeah, I could have just said that, but at the same time, I think the parents want more than just, yes, they can revise it. So it spit out a beautiful email, and I just copied and pasted it. And if you are worried that it's not going to sound like you can copy and paste an email that you've written and say, okay, now reply to this parent, make it sound like me, and it will.
Right. Well, and the beautiful part about that, right, that you're saying, I have not done that yet, but the idea, I've done it with other things, but the idea
Or have you, and
of,
you don't want to tell anyone?
yeah. So putting me on the spot. So the idea of that is you can always look at it before you send it, right? I mean, that's the part. It saves you the crafting of the email portion. And that's what people like. I mean, so I don't know how many emails you send a week, but if you send 100 emails a week and each one takes 4 minutes, you're looking at 400 minutes. What is that?
Yeah.
6.5 hours. And I can cut that 6.5 hours by half. That's another 3 hours that I can spend with my teachers, with my students, with whatever it is that I need to do that's going to bring more value and more impact to the learning process. It's just like even email in general, right? What did we do before email? We had these in-person meetings that took a half an hour, right? And like, I can answer that question, or the phone call, right? It was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. What do you have other ideas, like sleeper ideas that you haven't, do you have some that you're thinking about that you haven't tried yet?
I want to create a chat bot. So, I kind of went down the rabbit hole with this because what I would
Okay.
love is like, let's say for an assignment. So let's say that we have to write some kind of analysis on the Hunger Games. We're reading this right now.
Okay.
I want my students to be able to, maybe say, I don't know how to start my introduction. And then the chat bot could prompt them and say, okay, well, here are you learned about, 5 different types of hooks. Which one do you want to try? And then maybe they'll say, okay, I want to start with a question. Okay, what kind of question do you want? And if they're like, I don't know, they could say, well, you can ask a question about this, this, or this, or this. Which one do you want to do? So it could like really lead them step by step through the process as if I was sitting there talking to them. And so I'd want them to have the helper that I wish I had growing up. And they don't want to come in for tutoring, so then they can use the chat bot when they're at home trying to do the assignment. And I'm trying to wrap my brain around what that would look like. I don't know, because I'm still learning about chatbots and AI and all of that and prompt engineering. I'm still trying to perfect that. That's my dream.
So
I want to sell it.
I was gonna say in 3 years when we have you on a follow-up podcast and you're the owner of your own, Lepre Enterprises or whatever, and it's a chatbot that changes education. So would you have it be like a phone app where they can text in the things and get a response?
Mm-hmm.
Or
I mean, it's a web app,
or
so they can
everything,
use
right?
it on the
Everything,
phone
anywhere.
or
Okay.
yeah.
Strictly related to the writing process, or do you have ideas to expand that? Now, I'm not doing this so anybody steals your idea. I just think it's brilliant,
No,
right?
I
The
don't care.
idea of
I mean, if they get there faster, then go ahead.
right.
But I mean, it's still the idea that, because if you've ever used like, the little chat bot when you're on some kind of e-commerce store or
Mhm.
just, it's only so helpful because it has a fact base, an FAQ base. And so it's only as helpful as the information that you give. But because ChatGPT is pulling from so much more, not only can I feed in what I want, but it's also pulling stuff from whatever database. And eventually it's going to be pulling from the internet. We just found out that there's, ChatGPT that works with the browsers. And so I just want it to be more comprehensive. I want it to be a homework helper for all different subjects. But right now, because my domain is English and
Right.
writing, and then especially with literacy, I would love to have one where the student speaks into this chat bot and it'll give them help on words that it's stumbling, like it can hear that it's saying the same word over and over again and hesitating on certain words, and it'll give them a little bit of a nudge. And I would love that. And also practice for kindergartners so that they can get some help too. Because, if the parents aren't reading at home, or if the parents are struggling,
Right.
And their only way of getting access to reading instruction is at school, that's not enough.
That's awesome. The idea that they, well, and now, kids have access to phones and parents are just giving them the phones. Sorry, I just disappeared.
Digital babysitter.
Right.
Can you imagine if they had a chat bot that asked them how their day was, and then if they're being bullied at school, that gave them like suggestions on what to do, and you could have it set up where it alerts the parents, but I don't know, like AI also has the ability to learn how to kind of be emotional too, if we let it. People are scared about that, though. I'm not gonna lie.
They're very scared. One of the examples I don't know if I've shared it on this, but there's Rob Lennon, who's on Twitter, and he's kind of a big AI guy. He created a podcast, and he created his co-host, and the co-host is AI. Oh. And he's basically pulled anyway. That first episode, I haven't listened to it. It came out on Saturday morning. The first episode, and I was like, this is like the movie Her, right? With Joaquin Phoenix, where he falls in love with this AI, Scarlett Johansson. I think that's what it is, right? But the idea of, I can absolutely see parents right now that I know and work with, and in certain situations, they would just say, hey, here's your best friend. Hang out with your phone for the next 35 minutes while I go, do this thing, or while we're waiting in line at the store. And it goes back and forth, and there's audio, and there's talking, and there's texting, and there's, and you probably do too, parents, right? That would just absolutely be like, hey, right?
Yeah,
And
and you know,
you can call it
it's kind of
YouTube right
scary.
now, right? You can call it YouTube right now because kids are going to learn there and get things, but this would be more of an
Yeah.
interactive piece that you're talking about, which is, you know, it is a little scary, right? It lets us know where all of our weaknesses are, I guess, is humanity.
And that's what I wonder too, is it better to raise a kid with their parents' flaws or with AI that's going to actually nurture them the way that they should be to be healthy adults?
That's a great question. That is a great philosophical
That's an
question.
ethical question too.
No,
Yeah.
it is for sure. Okay, so I want to ask you a couple things we talked about before.
Okay.
You had talked about, and I have not used it yet, and it's funny because I have Canva. I have not used, and you had your kids do this, yes or no? Did you
We
have
played
Canva?
with it.
Okay. So Canva, and I'm going to pull up the screen. You can walk me through this, and I'll try and follow your directions.
Okay.
Let me add this up in here. So Canva, if you're not familiar with it, what Canva is as an educator, and I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I just don't know where you've been for the past 3 years because it is literally life saving, time saving. There's so many things wrapped into one. I use it regularly for our social media and just auto posting things and all sorts of stuff.
And it's free.
It's free. And educators, I know, and you get like everything. You get the background remover.
Version.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I hope they never end that. I think at some point everybody's going to be a teacher, right? They're like, oh, I work at this school, and I know they check your email.
Oh, you got to have to write the email. They check your email address.
It's amazing. So walk us through this. So I am.
Okay, so go ahead and start just like anything. So close out of this because they're trying to. Yeah, that's annoying.
Show me how to do
it.
Okay.
Just start to create a design. Anything. It could just be a blank page.
Should we do an Instagram story? Will that work?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So we're doing an Instagram story. We're doing this live, so all of the mistakes are going to happen live. I'm sure.
And then is there one to just do a blank one? Because I think it's easier to do something.
Let's just do. Where's blank?
That's a good question. How do you?
I see. There's so much. Start from media.
We're not convincing people to use this. Okay, yeah, just Instagram story. That was fine. Just go back to where you're at. We can work with that. Or the A4 document. I'm like pointing at the screen as if you can see me pointing
A4
at the
right
screen.
here. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. We'll just start with that. All right. So on the left, it says apps.
Okay. Right down here. If you're unfamiliar with Canva, this is where you get everything, right? You can see that we've used some other things, background and bulk create. So click on apps.
And then it's right there, text to image. So this is the hard part for me because it's the prompting. Yeah, click on use. Writing. So, I mean, let's do something basic like let's do a forest with tall trees and a bear. And then you can decide, do you want it to look like a photo or do you want it to look like a painting? So let's do photo because those always are funny. Because you can tell they're AI, and then create your image.
And it's going to kind of do like what Dolly and some of those other ones do. It's going to give us 4 versions, right? We're waiting on the
So this is not exactly what I envisioned, because I envisioned myself being more inside the forest with trees like directly around me and a bear standing up on its hind legs. So you have to, you can take these if you like them, but if it's not what you envision, then you need to be like super, super, super specific.
From a tree's point of view?
Sure.
Inside the forest.
From inside the forest with and maybe in a bear standing up from inside the forest. And then just create again. And you just have to keep trying and iterating over and over again until it gives you what you want.
So this one is a little bit more in the forest.
Mm-hmm.
Still not here. Still not here, right?
I mean, it's closer.
It is. No, it is closer, right? The viewpoint is, let's see what this one looks like. Bigger there. The forest actually does not look. Yeah, the forest doesn't actually look that bad. The bear is a little whatever, but I mean, it's got the shadowing coming from the sun in the background. You got all the rays coming through.
Mm-hmm.
This one.
So a lot of the stuff with the images. So I've tried Midjourney and I've tried Dolly and I tried this. It's all about the prompt. It's all about the information that you feed it and how specific you are, because it, you saw the first one, it just, shot out whatever it thought that you meant. But if you want it to be like a stormy night, or if you want it to be like a family of bears or a bear scratching its back on a tree, and this is where I start to think about, how can I prepare my kids for this? Like, how can I teach them how to write in a way that will prepare them to use the AI most efficiently? Because now we're adding another level where I'm teaching them how to be a technical writer. So we're not just writing to persuade, entertain, and inform. We're writing to give information step by step, maybe, to AI. And I think it'd be disservice not to at least introduce them to the idea of this. And it helps our other writing too, because being descriptive, of course, you need that for all the other modes of writing. But I think that this is like going to be a little bit of a mindset shift that I am going to be delving into this next school year. I mean, this will be my 22nd year of teaching, but I want to teach my kids at least the concepts behind it, and whether or not they run with it, that's up to them. But I think it would be disservice to not at least expose them to it.
Well, and there's this brilliant kind of foundation behind that, right? Is that the prompt engineering and the companies looking for people to write prompts for them. We've already, when I say their jobs are out there, right? They're being posted by people and they're learning how to do this. I was on Twitter earlier today, and there are people that are basically taking Midjourney audio and they're creating video. They're creating films out of all of these things, and they're so impressive. I was going to pull up the link, but I'll share it in the description whenever this posts.
Okay.
Because I had your Twitter account up, and I don't want to, because I want to save that for the end. And I know I'm going to get lost if I try and do this on the fly. But they were amazing, right? And they were people that were, and you could tell they'd spent hours, because the prompts were clean, and the images came out like, you can tell that they're AI generated, but there was just like 4 or 5. There was actually 10 of them where, the music in the background, and the forest and the trees and kind of all, and then there's one that was fire blowing up in the middle of a desert, right? And it looked like legit CGI fire blowing up in a building, and it was super duper cool. So with some philosophical, ethical stuff, what do you say to someone that has ethical, philosophical, moral issue with copyright? What do you say to that person that says, Kim, we should, right, is the word I'm going to use. We should not be using that in the classroom with our kids. What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, if you are opposed to the cheating aspect, you need to ask yourself, number one, did you cheat when you were their age? Not that it makes it right, but kids they've been cheating forever. And I'm not going to pretend like they're going to stop anytime soon. So if you're worried that they're going to go to ChatGPT to write their essay, well, then maybe we need to ask ourselves, what are we doing that's making it easier for them to cheat? So, for example, when we do assignments in my class, when we write essays, we're writing it in class. They are grappling with it. I'm giving them feedback in real time. I see them actually writing it. They don't have time to go and ask ChatGPT and the amount of, and I know what their writing looks like too. So I would know if they cheated. But even that aside, I'm not going to let a few students who will cheat and who don't want to learn how to write kind of ruin it for everyone else. Especially, we were talking about this before. Like, I use Cliff Notes to help me in English, but I didn't use Cliff Notes. It didn't write the English paper for me. It was just that I didn't understand Shakespeare, and I needed, a launching off point so that I could do my assignment. I love, was it picture math? Photo math.
Photo math.
My daughter showed me photo math, and I was like, this is amazing. This is your private math tutor. Like, how can we be mad about that? If you're really worried about them, abusing the technology, again, we can rethink the way that we give assignments. We can ask ourselves, is them being resourceful really that bad? Let's like take it to the next level then. I give an assignment where students have to go and pick something that they're really passionate about to review, and they have to review 3 of that product. So it could be 3 different boba places, or 3 different Call of Duty games, things like that. This is a real world application, which means that it's not really cheatable. I mean, they could, but they don't have the incentive to, because it's something that they care about.
I love that idea with they pick the 3. The idea too is also sometimes kids will spend so much time trying to get out of the real work that they actually do the real work. When I say work, they gain the real knowledge to do that. So we talked about this before, and I want to have you share. So you just shared one, right? So you have this writing assignment where they have to pick their favorite of the 3. What are some other ways? And you mentioned this, right? So the problem isn't necessarily what the kids are doing with the assessments, or it's how the teachers are creating assessments in their classroom. And this is more of a pedagogy question, right? And what that looks like. Is it something that you feel is, because not all teachers can do this. I mean, I think you've been working with teachers long enough to know that some teachers just cannot create their own project assignment writing, that they have to pull it from someplace else. How do you get to that point where you're at, and then share a couple of maybe projects or ideas that someone could use AI in their classroom to be kind of, not quote cheat proof, but to work around that? That was a loaded question, but
well, I mean, so what are kids cheating on when you think about it? They're cheating when it's information that they don't feel is useful for them, or it's information that they don't understand. So we have to mitigate those 2 things. So that's why I created a writing assignment that was meaningful to them, where they got to have some choice. But on an essay where they don't have choice, like we are going to write this particular essay together, how I keep them from cheating, the ones that are going to cheat, is I'm going to give them enough scaffolds, or I'm going to use AI to create additional resources for the students so that they aren't confused. So let's say we wrote a paper about the Ricky Tikki Tavi, the story, the short story. And so students had to prove how Ricky was a hero. So for my struggling students, they could totally ask ChatGPT to do it. But instead, what I did was I asked ChatGPT to give me 10 quotes of how Ricky Tikki was a hero. And then my students could pick from those quotes and use that to write their essay. So I'm using AI to create a bridge for them. And I can teach them, like, say, hey, look, you need to learn how to write this eventually. So I would even now, if ChatGPT would work for them, I haven't tried it on their iPads, I would say, you can ask them for quotes. You can ask them for ideas. Don't ask them to write it for you. And then use that to guide you on your writing. You just we just have to train them like anything else.
Right. That's awesome. Where do you see, we'll do maybe one more question, and then where do you see education and AI maybe a year from now, 3 years from now, 10 years from now? Like, I mean, just off the top of your head.
I really see AI as being our teaching assistant and the student's private tutor. First and foremost, I think that's the path of least resistance. I think that a lot of teachers can get on board with that, because we have to sell this. We have to teach teachers to think differently about what they do. So that's going to be something where teachers don't have to do as much heavy lifting. Yeah. I do think that the teachers who have been teaching a while and they don't really want to embrace technology in general, they're just going to keep on doing what they're doing anyway. And the new batch of teachers coming in are going to embrace it and not really see it so much as like cheating. They're not going to see it as a way that's going to shortcut learning for the students. I see it as a way of shortcutting all the stupid things that we're sometimes asked to do as teachers. Like, if we can automate that, then I think that that's going to make it more sellable to teachers. So they're going to do a lot of waiting and seeing. I can tell you that right now. Just like with when we had iPads or Chromebooks in the classroom, you had your watchers, and I think it's going to take, I hate to say it, 5-10 years when AI has morphed into robots that look like humans with AI. I think that's when they're finally going to get on board. Like I hate to be pessimistic about it, but I think it's going to move too fast.
Well, and you and I talked about this before, right? I mean, and in other episodes, I've talked with other educators. It's already moving so fast. Like every day, there's something new that comes out. And for the people that are like, oh, this is just going to be a flash in the pan, I'm like, it can't. It's not a flash in the pan. It's here. It's happening. And there's been smaller versions of this, right? So like Google, when I know it was a couple of years ago, when you would write an email and it would finish your sentences for you. Like that was a form, right? And you would just click enter and it would just, oh, yep, to whom it may concern or whatever. It was amazing.
Google Docs would do that for you too, right?
Yeah.
When you would type a paper, it would predict what you're going to say next. That's really what AI does too.
Well, and the idea that and I was thinking about this as you were talking is, so you have an 18-year-old right now that's graduating from high school this year, potentially in 4 years could be a teacher, right? A certified teacher.
Yeah.
They're going to go through 4 years of college with AI. And it's not just writing, it's music, it's art, it's organization, it's sales, it's all of the different things. And they're going to end up in the classroom and they're going to be surrounded with some teachers that are either with it or without it. And they're going to be like, you know what, I got to do this. Like, I don't know how to survive. I don't know how to survive without it. And I look at the batch of teachers that came from probably 2017 to 2022, the social media and the impact of social media in the classroom and how they're using it to engage their students, and maybe earlier than that, but even YouTube. Like when I was a teacher, it was we would use YouTube to do a daily video and just different things like that. Teachers are going to think of so many creative ways, and that's really what this conversation is about, is how do we stay in front of, kind of that tipping point, but also find out creative and engaging and, ethical ways to use it. So I will give you the last word, but before we do that, I want to just pull up all your stuff on the screen. And so this is the Teachers Need Teachers YouTube channel. It is also a podcast. Kim Lepre, weekly. Is that every other week?
Weekly.
Okay. Subscribe here. If you're a new teacher and you're struggling, or if you're a teacher that is on the ropes and you're thinking about not doing this anymore, I've watched a bunch of these. She has amazing stuff here, right? And then you can also follow her on Twitter here. A lot of these posts are the videos that have been put over to Twitter. And so, last word. I'll let you finish it off on whatever you want. Something that's going to inspire everybody.
If you've been dubious about AI, just go in and play with it and use it for your own personal everyday use. Something fun that I like to do is I like to look at the fridge and see what's there, and I'll tell ChatGPT, this is what I got. This is the protein I got. Can you please give me a recipe for something that will feed 4 people? And so it'll do that. I've asked it to give me recommendations on restaurants to go to. That one's a little bit hit or miss, but it's still kind of fun to just see what it can do. If you remember when iPhones came out and everyone was freaking out about like all the different apps, and you just have to play with it and stop seeing it as this like scary thing that's going to, take over. I mean, it is, but instead of seeing it as a scary thing, see it as like a playground, like a game, or, just mess around with it and stop taking it so seriously. There's people like us who will take it seriously for you. We're going to set up the systems so that all you have to do when it really hits education is just use it. So stop worrying about that and just learn to get used to it as being part of your life, because it's pretty much inevitable. It's just like cell phones are inevitable. For a lot of people, social media is inevitable. So it's going to be harder for you to avoid it than to embrace it eventually.
That was fantastic. Thank you.